Big changes are happening in the US government, and it's all about voting and elections, which are very important to every American citizen. And now, the Justice Department is making headlines because it is changing its direction and focus according to a new memo that has come out. And this memo says that the department will now give more attention to following an executive order made by former President Donald Trump during his time in office. Instead of focusing on other voting rights issues that used to be a top concern before. And this move is catching attention all over the country because elections are the heart of democracy. And when any changes happen to the way voting is handled, it raises a lot of questions, concerns, and debate from people on both sides of politics. So what exactly is this Trump order? And why is the Justice Department now choosing to focus on it? Well, Trump's order, which was made in 2020 before the presidential election, was about making elections more secure and making sure that only legal votes are counted. And that sounds good on the surface, because who doesn't want safe and fair elections? But critics say that the order could lead to voter suppression, which means it might make it harder for certain groups of people to vote, especially minorities, low-income communities, and people who already face challenges voting. And now, with this new decision by the Justice Department, instead of putting most of their energy into protecting access to voting and stopping things like voter suppression or discrimination at the polls, they will now focus more on carrying out Trump's order, which could include checking voter rolls more often, watching out for fraud, and changing how ballots are handled. And all of this is happening at a time when trust in elections is already low in some parts of the country, and people are still debating what happened in the 2020 election, even though there is no solid proof that major fraud happened. And even courts and officials from both political parties have confirmed that the election was fair. Still, many people who support Trump believe there were problems, and they support efforts to tighten rules around voting. But others believe this could be a step backward, especially for civil rights and voting equality. And now the Justice Department, which is supposed to be neutral and make sure the law is followed fairly for everyone, is being watched very closely, because this new direction might show that the department is shifting to align more with political goals instead of staying independent. And the memo didn't come out with a big announcement, but it's causing waves behind the scenes, especially with people who work in voting rights and elections. And legal experts are trying to figure out how this will affect future elections, especially as the country gets closer to the 2024 and 2028 elections. And it's important to remember that executive orders are powerful tools used by presidents to tell federal agencies what to focus on. And although President Biden is now in office and could change this order, the Justice Department is still choosing to follow the Trump-era order, which is raising eyebrows, and some are wondering if politics is playing a bigger role than the law. And this story matters because voting is how people make their voices heard. And if rules change, even a little, it could change how easy or hard it is for people to take part in elections. And even small changes to how voter registration works, or how ballots are collected and counted, can have big effects, especially in close races. And supporters of the Justice Department's move say that secure elections are necessary, and looking into voter fraud, even if it's rare, helps keep the system honest. But others say that focusing too much on fraud when very little actually happens is a distraction from real issues like making sure every citizen can vote without trouble or confusion. And this memo is not just a small internal note. It shows a bigger shift in priorities, and it might set the stage for how voting will work in the coming years. And because this is happening now, before future elections, it's likely to be a big topic in political debates, news discussions, and legal battles. And people from all sides will be watching what the Justice Department does next. because it will affect how millions of Americans experience elections in the future. And if people feel like the system is not fair or is working against them, that could lead to more distrust, more division, and more tension in an already divided political climate. So this story isn't just about one memo, it's about the future of voting in America and how the government decides what's more important: protecting voting, access for all, or focusing on fraud prevention, even if there's very little fraud happening. And it's also about whether decisions are being made for political reasons or for the good of the people. And as voters, it's important to stay informed and understand what's happening behind the scenes. Because even quiet changes in policy can shape how democracy works. And that's why this story matters, and why people are talking about it now.